Good evening, Denver South. Thank you so much for joining us for night 2 of International Week. We're so happy you decided to follow along this journey that we're having with our cooks. And tonight we are cooking with Mira. She's going to be cooking tortice from her home country. And so I invite you to watch and enjoy as she shows us how to make her home food.
Hello everyone, this is Mira. As some of you guys know, I'm originally from Romania. So today we're gonna make a simple recipe, but something that I grew up with that I just really love. We're going to make something called plăcinte. It's kind of like pita bread, and you can stuff it with different things. So I'm gonna start with a dough that is very similar to pizza dough. So I like to make a lot. So I'm starting with 3 cups of warm water. You can always make it a smaller batch, but I like to make a bigger batch because then I can make pizza too and other things, and then I can just have more dough for all of those things. So I'm starting with 3 cups of water that is warm, and then I'm going to do, I usually do about 1 tablespoon of dry yeast. Let's see here. And then you need a little bit of sugar to activate the yeast. Romanians don't like their bread to taste very sweet, so I usually don't put too much sugar in, but sugar does activate that yeast. So I'm just going to stir it a little bit, and then we have to let it sit for a couple of minutes so that the yeast gets nice and frothy. So now that the sugar has activated the yeast, you will see that it's a bit frothy. So that means that we're ready to add the next ingredients. I like to do everything in a nice big bowl because we're gonna have to knead this, and I like to have a lot of room. So make sure you wash your hands, obviously, because you're gonna need your hands in there for kneading. So next I'm gonna put a little bit of salt. I do maybe 1/2 to 3/4 of a tablespoon of salt, and you can always taste the dough, and if you feel like it needs to be a little saltier, you can always put a little more salt in. And then we also put about a tablespoon of vegetable oil. If you like olive oil, that also works. A lot of this recipe is kind of by just trial and error and just getting your hands in there and trying the mixture. So I'm going to try to keep a track of the measurements for you, but it's a lot of just kind of feeling it out. So I'm using just a regular spatula and just kind of mixing those, and then I start adding my flour. And with the mixture, you want the dough to be sticky and soft, but not sticky enough that it sticks to your hands. So I'm starting with a cup, and while the dough is still kind of liquidy, I'm using my spatula. But later on, when it gets a little stickier, I'm going to actually put my hands in there and start kneading the dough. Well, this is the part where you kind of just have to feel it and see how it goes. I think I've added 4 more, not quite full cups, and the dough is starting to look sticky. You kind of can hear that yeast. And when it's about this consistency, it's kind of soft, I start adding a lot more flour in and using my hands. So I'm going to get rid of my spatula, and we're just going to start kneading it.
Mama, I want to help you. Mama, I want to help you. Mama, I want to make.
Okay, baby, go wash your hands.
Okay.
The kids like to always help me knead. So I'm gonna let Abby help me a little bit. She of course needs to wash her hands first. Go ahead, honey, go wash your hands.
I cannot.
So if you can see now, it's starting to get a little more heavier.
Then I get mad at my dad.
Still a little too sticky, so I'm going to add a little more flour. And now we just kind of get in there and knead it. Sure, honey.
I need to get a tray. I got a tray, Mama, of the baby tray in our house.
It's gonna get pretty sticky.
I love this. Mama, I love this.
A trick to get dough off your hands is you put just a little bit of flour on your hands and rub it together, and it'll get the dough off your hands. So the dough is almost ready to be left to rise, but Abby's going to help me knead a little more. To help the dough not stick to the bottom, I will lift the dough like this and put some flour at the bottom. Okay, Abby, go ahead and knead. Good girl. Can you do it with your fists like this? Yeah, and the other one too. And she doesn't have a lot of power in her fist, but it's a pretty soft dough, if you can see. That's a pretty soft dough, but it's not too sticky. You don't want it to stick to your hands, but it's still a very soft dough.
I can roll it.
Yeah, mommy, good job.
That's a tire too. Like this. I make it in a ball.
Now, after we've kneaded the dough, we're going to take the dough and kind of make it into a bowl.
I'll do it.
Make sure that we have a tiny bit of flour at the bottom so it doesn't stick. And we have it into a nice bowl.
Please, I don't want it.
Now, can you help me put it down? Okay, good job. And then we just sprinkle a little bit of flour on top. And then you can take either a towel or a wet paper towel, cover your bowl like so, just all around the dough, and then put it in a warm place to rise. I usually let it rise for about an hour. So our dough is done rising, and it's about double in size. So we can, I always like to knead it just a little bit more, and then we can start making our turtice is what we called it in our part of the country. In other parts of the country, they're called plăcinte, depending on where you are. So now that we're ready to spread our dough, we need to prepare an area to spread it. I like the sill pads because it keeps the mess from the counter, but you can also just use your countertop and spread some flour just like the kids have here on top of the counter. And I will partition the dough just using a regular butter knife. So the dough is very sticky right now, and I just use my butter knife, kind of partition it a little. And I'll take a little piece of the dough. It also feels kind of soft. And then I knead it a little bit more. This is an activity we like to do a lot. The kids love playing with it. Abby even calls it Play-Doh. But what are you guys doing? Are you kneading your dough?
No. Actually, we are, and after we knead it, we're gonna shape it.
Okay, can you show me how you're kneading it?
My hands are kind of sticky.
So now I have my dough and I'm gonna knead it a little bit more and then shape it. But before I do that, I need to prepare the spot that I'm going to cook it in. So you need a skillet like this, and I've started heating it up a little bit. And then I put a little bit of oil, not too much. Then I use a paper towel to just kind of spread it around. I like a skillet with a lid because it keeps the heat and then it cooks all the way through. So now we're going to take our dough and we're going to add a little more flour because it's just very sticky after it's risen. And we knead it. If you feel like it's catching onto your fingers, you can always add a little bit more flour. And these, as I said, in my part of the country, were called tortice, and they're kind of almost like peasant food, but it's so good, and you can make it with all kinds of different things. We love feta cheese, so we fill ours with feta cheese. So as you can see, I've made it again in kind of a little bowl, and then I turn it over, a little more flour so it doesn't stick, and I make like a little well inside the tortilla. I take my feta cheese, kind of fill that well. We like a lot of feta cheese, if you like only a little bit. Now these can be made with fruit inside. It gets a little more difficult with fruit because it's juicy and you have to make sure you drain a lot of that juice, otherwise it starts coming out the sides. But you can make it with feta cheese, or my husband, who is not as fond of feta cheese as the girls and I are, just likes them plain, and then you can put stuff on top like jelly or honey or anything like that. So I'm gonna put a little bit more flour at the bottom. So we just have the flour ready. Now we put a little bit of flour on top, and then I will take my rolling pin and I'll put flour on the rolling pin so it doesn't stick. And my nice round dough, going to straighten it like this. And then we just kind of roll it and try to make like a nice round pita.
What pita?
Yeah, tortice in English is pita.
Mama, can we have that?
So then I put a little bit
Mama,
of
can I
flour.
have that?
Yeah, just a second. I put a little bit of flour on top, and then we lift it and we place it in our frying pan like so, and we cover it with the lid, medium heat. And then I usually like a timer because they get cooked very quickly. So I'll do about 1.5 minutes and then turn them over. The girls love feta cheeses. You can see they're sampling as they're cooking. Do you guys have your little rolling pins? Can you show me how you roll it, Demi?
Let me close this up so the feta cheese doesn't come out. Yeah. Now, since it's all closed up, now I can roll, Mama.
Okay.
I want to flip it over first so the feta cheese doesn't come over on top. Okay. Okay, so this.
And our timer says it's done, so we're gonna check on ours. over here. So we're going to take the lid off. Let's see if it's done on the other side. Oh, that's perfect. That's the color we're looking for. We're going to cover it and let the other side cook as well. So let's see if the other side is done. Oh, that's beautiful. So we're going to take it. I have a paper towel underneath so that it doesn't sweat onto the plate. And there you have it, a beautiful tortilla filled with feta cheese. Here we have it, our tortilla, a plain one for Daddy and the ones the girls made. Go ahead, girls. How is it, Emmy?
It's so yummy. It's so yummy.
You like it?
Water?
So here they are, all made, our tortilla with feta cheese inside. I hope you enjoyed your time with us, and I hope that you get a chance to make them. Enjoy, and God bless.
Wow, that food looks so good. Thank you, Mira, for showing us, and thank you to all our cooks who have recorded themselves cooking food this week. I'm very excited to have all of our cooks show you and share all the wonderful diversity that we have in our community with our cooking. Join us tonight at 6:30, so in a few minutes, to hear our speaker and to hear worship music and a good prayer. I look forward to seeing you there at 6:30.